My dear brothers and sisters, several years ago when I was a little boy, and some will ask me how long back was that, Father, but several years ago, we would receive an invitation card to a wedding, and it was very often in the shape of what we get today for a school annual day function, one simple card with just a few lines written on it. And it was always a family invite, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so and family. And we were always excited as kids to go for a wedding. We'd see everyone so well dressed. And in those days, several years ago, and I'm stressing that, in those days, there was no buffet. They would start by serving cake and perhaps some homemade wine. There would be orange juice that was made by the caterer. Then there would be perhaps a sandwich that was given, a chutney sandwich. And then you would, if you're lucky, you would get one small patties. And then of course the wedding would end with one plated service of one bun with one salami and 2 cocktail slices. And then perhaps one small cup of ice cream. Go home after that. This is what weddings were all about, and this is what wedding invitations were all about. We can see the big difference from then to now. Today I sometimes feel that the wedding invitation card is a lot more expensive than the food that you're eating at the wedding banquet hall. But it's a lot more elaborate. And therefore today, because of the expense involved, one very rarely gets a family invite. It's always Mr. and Mrs. That's it. And then of course, you have to be dressed in your best. And sometimes the invitation card comes with an RSVP. Respondez s'il vous plaît. Naturally, because of the cost involved in catering, the couple or the family wants to know how many will be attending. And this is what we can see today. Now, for those of us who've been waiting and waiting and waiting to receive a nice gold-plated invitation card, it comes your way this weekend. It comes from God Himself, because He wants to invite you to the heavenly banquet, the wedding of His Son Jesus, son of Joseph and Mary, to the church, the bride, Son of God and Holy Spirit, a daughter of God and Holy Spirit. And He has put there only your name, no Mr. and Mrs. and family. So dearest Savio, welcome to the wedding feast of Jesus and the church. The date and time He is going to fill Himself. God will fill that. It's not already written, but God will fill it. And then where is the venue? It's in heaven, and it is in the banquet hall. And our first reading from Isaiah gives us the menu that all of us are going to enjoy at this wedding. The musicians will be the angels. They'll be playing mostly on harps and will be giving us excellent music. There are enough of caterers who are already gone to heaven before us, and therefore we know that we will get sumptuous food. There is no RSVP to this wedding invitation. And I believe this invitation has come to every one of us. Now, the options that we have are what has come in today's gospel. The first option is to reject the invitation. Remember, the banquet has already been prepared. And this is what the Jews did. The invitation first went out to the Jews, but they rejected the invitation. And the gospel tells us they did not give any reasons why they rejected it the first time. So naturally the king wanted to be persistent. And he sent his servants a second time. Go back and invite everyone to this wedding feast, because the banquet has already been prepared. And then the servants came, and then they started making excuses one after the other. The people went to the extent of even killing the servants. And out of frustration, the king destroyed that town. Perhaps almost about 30 or 40 years after the Gospels were written, We know about the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Already an indication coming in this gospel. Because you rejected me, we shall destroy the temple. And then finally, the king sends out the invitation again. And this time tells the servants, go and call everyone to the banquet. Good and bad alike. Those who have sinned, those who have not sinned. And naturally, because here comes a free invitation, there's a banquet prepared, we have to go. You see, in those days, my dear brothers and sisters, there weren't any freezers and refrigerators where you could keep all that food and have it for the next 1 week. It had to be had that same evening or perhaps the next morning. And therefore the banquet was already ready. Call everyone. And everyone came. Now comes the most interesting part. The banquet hall is filled with people, and suddenly the king noticed one of the guests who wasn't wearing the wedding garment. And we can find out from the gospel what the king did to this particular guest. It may seem unfair to us because everyone was invited. So why was this poor fellow targeted? Well, it was a last-minute invitation. So they didn't have the time to go back and pick up a Raymond suit or perhaps a very, very fashionable sari or anything. No time at all to be dressed in their finery. They just came. And the king had provided the wedding garments for every guest. So as you entered, the garments were all kept over there. You wear the wedding garment and you come in. But this particular guest chose not to wear the wedding garment. And that was such a shame. What was that symbolic of, my dear brothers and sisters? We all do wrong. We all sin. And we will all ruin clothes that we will wear to the banquet. And God knows that. The clothes represent our life. Or at least the life since accepting the invitation. Our life since you accepted the gift of grace. It's the same garment that we wore at baptism when we made a commitment to be soldiers of God. When we made a commitment to be His faithful disciples. And over the years, that garment that we wore for the first time at our baptism has been stained by sin. And therefore these clothes are ruined. And therefore we still want to make an entry into God's kingdom, but this time taking out those garments because they are not worthy enough to be worn. But God knows all of that, which is why He never stops forgiving. He never stops showering us His grace. And by accepting His grace, we become responsible for our lives. We must try and live lives worthy of that grace. To be proud and grateful for the clothes that God has given us. Clothes that through grace are so easy to clean and so easy to repair. What should I be doing in my new clothes? Today's psalm, one of our favorites, "The Lord is my shepherd," often read at baptisms, speaks wonderfully of the lifelong protection that God Himself provides. One of the verses that were sung today stand out. And I've often drawn comfort from that line, "Surely goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life." But today I wish to read it differently. Today I found a challenge in that line. Maybe it means that I'm challenged to provide goodness and kindness all my days. It follows me because I'm supposed to leave a trail of goodness and kindness. If I dwell with the Lord, my life is His. I have a responsibility to have a life filled with the grace that He has given me. When I fail, I can always turn back to Him, and I know that He will always forgive me. But when I succeed, what differences can I make to this damaged world? How can I do my bit to help God's kingdom here on earth as it is the banquet on that mountain in heaven? The invitation has been given to each one of us today to the heavenly banquet. As to the date and time, none of us know when that hour will be. But are we ready, my dear brothers and sisters, for this beautiful banquet that the Lord has prepared for each one of us. We have options and choices. One, to accept this invitation and live a life worthy of being welcomed as a guest, wearing the wedding garments that God provides for us to this heavenly banquet. Or the other choice is to reject the invitation like the chosen people did, and then to suffer a life of loss.
God bless, and do have a Jesus-filled day.